Question number 10, Clayton Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Civil Defence and asks what progress has been made, if any, on new civil defence legislation which focuses on large and significant events such as the Christchurch and Kaikōura earthquakes.
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I'm pleased to confirm that last Thursday the House passed the third reading with unanimous support of a Civil Defence Emergency Management Amendment Bill. That new legislation focuses on a smoother transition from the response phase to the recovery stage. I have to say though, however, that the legislation has a very long enactment date. So from the time that it receives assent, it's 180 days before it comes into effect. I think given the events of the last couple of days, there may be a need to look at bringing that commencement date further forward, and it's my intention to have discussions with all parties in the House with a view to perhaps moving in that direction.
Supplementary question.
Supplementary question, Clayton Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Why did it take 12 months to put through the Civil Defence Emergency Management Amendment Bill, focusing on Part 1 of the Christchurch earthquake review, when it was fully supported across the House and should have been read under urgency?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Well, Mr Speaker, there aren't too many parties that would argue for bills of that size and importance to be passed under urgency. I understand too that the member's own party has a particular aversion to urgency and urgent matters being taken to pass bills in the House.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Clayton Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Is the Minister aware that New Zealand First would be supportive of the Government in bringing Part 2 of the Christchurch earthquake review, which addresses large-scale emergencies, before the House without any further delay?
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, as Acting Minister of Defence, no.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker.
Supplementary question, Clayton Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. When can we expect legislation that addresses large-scale emergencies, such as earthquakes and tsunamis, to be brought before the House, and will this legislation be put through under urgency?
The Honourable
Speaker,
Jerry Brownlee.
I think the important thing to recognise here is that is the definitional one around what is a large-scale emergency. So while I agree with Andrew Little that the events of the last couple of days affect the whole of New Zealand, they are very much concentrated in a large chunk of the country, but they don't affect the majority of New Zealanders in a direct way that the legislation is designed to relieve, if you like. So I would argue and continue, as we did during the process of the passing of the bill last week, that bill, the new legislation, does allow an appropriate level of response. But I'd have to say the Parliament should also always reserve its right to pass special legislation if there is an event of such a size that it is needed. And that was the case in Christchurch. I think the discussions that I'd like to have with parties over the next few days or beyond around the use of this legislation may be worth, maybe change some of our consideration about what is a large-scale event.
Question number